Good evening to you. It is Friday, April 25th at 10:28 p.m. Had a couple thoughts on just some general portal stuff, some football, some basketball thoughts, and I think interesting observation. You can see it in the thumbnail if you're here on YouTube. You see it. I know we can see it over on the Believe stuff too, but I think it's a good observation. Anyway, I'll talk about that. Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to Home Field Apparel. Head over to homefieldapparel.com, enter Boiled25 at checkout to get 15% off. And also, when you're in God's country, like I will be this weekend for a brief visit, you got to head to AJ's. You just got to do it. Go in there, see Adam, get some cheese curds, get the pretzel, get mac and cheese bites, get burgers, beef, beer. That's AJ's. EatAJ's.com by the fire station. All right, so that wasn't a very long intro for my AJ's, I know. But I had a couple things I wanted to talk about, some observations. They're not big deals, none of them. But first one is, some of you noticed that during Purdue's football spring, they were wearing black lids the whole time. Noteworthy to some people. Some people are into that sort of thing. And my thumbnail, if you could see it, if you look back at the years that Barry Odum played at Missouri, had a similar look. I think we can say that. I've always thought Missouri and Purdue had at different times, have had similar uniform looks. Back in the late 90s specifically, Missouri and Purdue were probably even closer in their look. But I think Odum just likes the black lids because they're familiar from his era. I think he is pretty fond of his time playing college football at Missouri. And so I think that's why Purdue is leaning towards using the black lids primarily in football. Not a big deal, but for some people, traditional Purdue people, some older people, maybe think of Akers first, and then you come and you think of some of the good times in the Brom helmets, which were pretty different than what they're wearing now. And then, of course, last year, and so maybe you think that's not the best thing, but it's all association to who's making the big decision, I think. And I believe, just based on what I understand of Barry Odum, that at this point, what he says goes. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what's happening on the football side of things. Right, there's a lot every day. There's an announcement of 2 or 3 players coming to play for Purdue, and I've had a couple people ask me, "Hey, are you going to talk about your thoughts about the portal and what Odum has done so far?" And here are my thoughts. I would be foolish, absolutely foolish, to say that every time I see an SEC athlete transferring to Purdue that I'm like, whoa, I'm blown away. Things are going to be awesome. This is going to be excellent. I would be foolish. And wouldn't we all be a little foolish? And I know some people have fallen in love a little bit with the star ratings and things like that. But I think there is a big difference from last year. I think I do trust Barry Odum and his history and what he has done, and he's got systems in place. I think it's a big thing about Odum specifically. I think he's got a lot of systems in place that he really let's see, no black, go better. Yeah. Agreed. He's got some systems in place that I don't think Coach Walters even could dream about, because he didn't really know exactly what he was doing. He didn't know what he didn't know. And for that reason, I think Purdue was in deep right away. And it showed. So, I think that's a good thing. So when he goes after a guy's specific need in mind and he gets the guy, there's a reason to say, yeah, this might work out pretty well. The problem that Purdue has is this is a massive rebuild this year. So that's the first part of that. So are these guys going to do big things this year? You remember Odum talked about he doesn't expect to rebuild, he expects to win right away. I think that is such a long shot right now. When you say win right away, I think you right away say 6 or 7 wins, right? That's a tall order. That's a big ask, as they say in corporate world, right? I think that's a lot. I think it's a lot to ask. I would say Purdue will win 2 to 4 games this year. Based on what I see right now, people have asked about my prediction. I think you can start making a prediction. I don't think the roster is even close to set. I think there's going to be a bunch of new guys still being added. But I think 2 to 4 wins is about where I think. I think Purdue should start 2-0 because those games are games that Purdue should win, just even with talent trying to figure each other out. That's really what Purdue's doing this year. They're going to try to figure each other out. They're going to try to install new systems. There's a lot of things that are moving parts. Some good news, I think, on the offensive line. If you look at like some of the guys they've gotten in there, it's really good. And there's also some rumors coming out of Purdue that are tougher medicine, meaning some guys have been asked to leave the program, meaning they had their meeting and after spring ball, and Odum said maybe it's time to go someplace else. And so when that happens, there's a lot of bad taste in the mouths of certain people. But you had to expect a major overhaul at some point, and we're seeing it. We're seeing it. Even the guys that were just left over, kind of lousy, because I think there's some very likable dudes that were carryovers from the remnants of the Walters team, from the mass exodus. But really, most of them are gone. Ironically, it looks like Purdue's quarterback will be a Walters guy who started 2 games and played in 3 or 4 his entire career, Ryan Brown. And many Purdue fans have asked me what my thoughts are on Ryan Brown. I'm going to give you my straight thoughts. And I don't do this a lot where I just give unvarnished thoughts. I know a lot of people are just like totally stoked about Ryan Brown being back. So let me tell you my first thing. I've met Ryan Brown multiple occasions, and I really like him. Like, I think he is a good-natured guy. I think he's a good team guy. Everything I heard from his fellow teammates is he's a guy that like everybody likes in the locker room. Really good for morale. I think he is a fun-loving dude. Like I said, I've interacted with him a couple times, and I don't know. He doesn't know me, but I've interacted with him at his house, actually. So thanks to another one of my friends who I'm not going to tell the connection. Anyway, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. That's the first part. The second part is I think the fact that he's back and that he potentially has the inside track to start at quarterback next year really shows, really shows the desperation that both sides are in my opinion. Because remember, if you look at the calendar of events, Bill Belichick was hired on December 6th. Barry Odum was hired on December 8th at Purdue. And Ryan Brown left Purdue December 20th. So he was lured away by a better package at North Carolina. He went there, and he ends up back at Purdue 4 months later. So to me, that looks like Coach Belichick probably did some of the things that Odum has done, where he's come in and he said, okay, this isn't going to work. I don't have exactly the situation I want. Either he said it overtly, or the offensive coordinator said it, or somebody hinted at it, and Brown did not like what he was seeing. Whatever it is, right? We won't know the whole story for a while, but there's a reason that Brown left. Something changed in those 4 months when he was there down in UNC. And I can tell you that I love North Carolina. There are very few colleges in America that I'm like, man, that place is great. When my son visited last year, we went to Chapel Hill, and I thought it was a cool place. I think it's a very cool campus, a lot of history. I like UNC athletics, always have. But so I can understand why somebody would be lured there, especially if there was a very good raise of funds, involved, higher salary, whatever you want to say it, NIL money. And he got a good deal. He got a good deal from all the rumors I've heard. He got a very good deal. But in those 4 months, everything changed, and he comes back to Purdue. When he comes back to Purdue, all of a sudden, Odum was very willing to forgive the fact that he left. And it seems like Odum is a hard-nosed guy. Everything I see seems like he's very consistent. He has a way of doing things, but he really wanted Ryan Brown back on that team. So here's what I'm saying. He's back. I hope he doesn't do this again. That's my biggest worry. My biggest bother about the whole thing is if a guy's left and come back once. I mean, I just don't like that. I just don't like that sort of thing. I'm old school, I guess. Some people are just like, yeah, great. Glad he's back. But, and I don't wish any ill will on him at all. Like I said, I like him. And I hope he's awesome. I hope this is an excellent fit, and he comes in right away, and he just is gangbusters, and he takes to the new systems in place and the offense, and he is an automatic fit. and he passes Meredith on the depth chart. Because remember, we haven't seen him even practice at Purdue since Odum's been on campus. But I think there's a lot of things that point at the roster needs help. He was there, and he's back. So okay, that's about it. I'm not going to dig in too deep to any other transfers, portal guys that came in. I'm not going to tell you who I'm excited about and who I'm not excited about. I did that last year, and I was wrong. I figured like some of the guys who had playing time at Georgia, I was like, man, automatic. If I'm really excited about somebody, it'd be like somebody like Morissette who stuck it out. I think it's awesome that he's still at Purdue right now. I think he's still at Purdue. I mean, hell, how do we know? But I'm excited about that. A guy that stuck around, who has a place, who likes to be at Purdue, who, you know, I think he's in year 2, right? He'll be year 3, right? No, this will be year 2. No, year 3. I think it's year 3 for him. So, yeah, so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about guys like that. Purdue still has some roster spots they need to fill, like desperate need to fill. If they don't, they're going to be moving guys around different positions. So a lot can happen in the offseason. Okay, that's first thing. Second thing, basketball portal talk. The basketball portal closed. We talked the 22nd of April. And some in the comments in the margin during live shows, people asked, why or how are you so confident about Harrison Cox sticking around specifically? The reason I never was worried about them was because they came out in public and said they were sticking around, right? They put comments in with the athletic department, with Foreman, and let everybody know their thoughts, even before all the shifting had happened. Also, I talked to both of those guys at the spring game, and they seemed completely comfortable where they were. Granted, that doesn't mean anything. I know that. But I just never was too worried about them. And I'm like, okay, these guys are sticking. They're really important parts of the team. And then the portal closes and they're here still. Now, does that mean they couldn't have left and nobody tried to woo them? No, I think until it's official, I would go further. We've seen this before at other places that the portal really, I don't think it's truly legally binding, is it? I mean, in the off season, you could probably leave. Just all you have to do is leave and enroll in classes in another school. And I think it overrides the portal. And so what that points to right away is there's been tampering because you weren't there, but the tampering doesn't matter because there is no rule against it. And so it's all dumb. But those guys stuck. The roster looks really great. Looks really, really, I don't want to say completely perfect or complete, absolutely complete, but it looks really good. And we talked about this the other day, the last time I was with you, a little over a week ago, that the problem with the roster is the athleticism, the guys that just pop off, you're like, okay, playing above the rim. There isn't a whole bunch of that. Is that the end of the world? I don't think so. And there are athletes on the team, but Harris is a great athlete. Cox is a great athlete. I think Meyer's a great athlete. Smith is an underrated athlete, absolutely. So there are athletes. It's just kind of oohs and ahs and the throwing alley-oops from half court and almost making them, which we did at Purdue. That happened a lot. Maybe there won't be as much of that this season. Another thought that I had. I wanted to weigh in on this. Boilermaker Special crash happened a couple days. Was it 2 days ago now? Awful news. Super sad. I'm sad for everybody involved. I'm sad for the student that was driving, because that's just a horrible freak accident to have a tire bust and cross the yellow line. And then, of course, the family of the person who passed away. Awful news. And there's no joke in here. There are a lot of idiots on Twitter and other places that are saying things. But one thing you need to understand about the Boilermaker Special is, I believe, for about 40 years, at least 30, it's been built on a semi-truck chassis. Right now it's on a International Navistar chassis, a 2012 semi-truck chassis. Very highway worthy vehicle. This isn't something that's some like novelty, put together in a somebody's garage. They've done a couple of them too. That's the thing. They've done it with this formula a couple times. Very roadworthy vehicle, and a tire failed. So I actually have a professor from when I graduated who designed the first one that was built this way on this chassis, and I think he's helped update it with the reamers, and I think it's the reamers involved. And it's horribly tragic. It's just bad news for everybody. And if you saw the photos, just awful. I do believe somebody's asked the question, is there going to be another special? I think there was from what I understand, there was a budget approval of a new one to come anyway, kind of like Air Force One. They need new ones every now and again just because wear and tear. From what I understand, there was a new one coming. So even before this awful thing happened, but I don't think the wreck happened because of anything that was mechanically bad. It was a tire. So finally, one other thing that I think it's really interesting and noteworthy. I had a chance to meet Barry Odum's son, Garrett, last week. I was on campus, and I got to tell you, I am extremely impressed with this kid. One of the most unassuming college athletes I've ever met, meaning he was just a really nice, humble kid. It was outside of church. It was a Good Friday service, and I met him with some offensive linemen. And I knew one of them before and went up to talk to him. And so it's him and 3 offensive linemen. And I said, all the offensive linemen go to church together. And I didn't even understand who Garrett was. I just thought he was a kid, just a friend, another Purdue student. Because number one, he's not a big kid yet. He's young. He's filling out. But he said, my name's Garrett. And I was right away. I knew who he was, and it was coach's son. And, he didn't say I'm Garrett Odum. He didn't try to get any of that. And then he started talking about his older brother who's quit football. And he was very complimentary of his older brother being just a really, really good guy, a smart guy. He was very deferent to his family. And just, I mean, in the first blush, just an incredibly nice kid. So I thought that was really, really cool, and I'd share it because I was impressed with him, and I'm always impressed with parents when you have a young guy who is already got that type of head on his shoulders. I thought that was something I'd pass on with you guys. And I generally don't do that. When I interact with somebody in public and they don't know that I do this, that I have a podcast, a stream, whatever, I don't go public with that information, but I thought this was nothing but positive, and it needed to be told just because he's an impressive kid. And I think the future for him is pretty bright, regardless if it's on football field or someplace else. He's such a humble kid. And remember, he was a high 3-star recruit, had tons of offers from other places, decided to stick with his dad and come to Purdue. And I think Purdue's going to be better for it, regardless of how. I don't know. But very impressive kid. Okay, so a couple of you guys are on here live. Appreciate you being here. Unusual time, 10:46 on a Friday with no football at all. Very busy work week for me this week, so which is good. But for me, as somebody who does contract work in my field, it's feast or famine if you do that as well. If you're a service provider at some point, and when work is busy, it's a good thing. So, but it keeps me away from doing quick casts or doing NightCasts, whatever. So I had some time, so I thought I'd do it. Ted Berkey's here first. Says good evening, John Joshna. I can go with Jochna. Good evening to you. Appreciate you being here. IC says, good evening from Texas. I love this. It's one of my favorite things that's happened recently. A couple of you guys started telling me where you're watching from, where you're listening from. And I think one day we had, Albuquerque, and then we had some on the East Coast, and love to hear people are listening all across the country. It's great. A little bit of connection, place to meet for all of us where you're not. Maybe it's a little harder to find a boiler in Texas. Who knows? Motor City Boiler, we've been interacting quite a bit on Twitter, having fun over there. Cheers to you. Andy Day says, evening, y'all. How are you? Kevin in Albuquerque says, good evening, Dowd. Prayers to those involved in Boilermaker Special crash. Absolutely. And I am a proponent and a believer in the power of prayer, and absolutely praying for those families. everybody involved. I haven't heard anything yet about the students. I know they went to the hospital too after the wreck. If you look at what was remaining of the car and the special, it was horrible. I mean, the car was unrecognizable. Head-on collisions are they're brutal. But yeah, praying for everybody involved. But I haven't heard if the students were out of the hospital yet, because I think both of them went to the hospital in ambulances. So maybe you guys have. If you have, let me know here in the comments. Motor City Boiler says, I heard Shedeur Sanders is withdrawing from the draft and transferring Purdue. Yeah, I mean, tough couple of days for Shedeur. If you saw his preparations he went through for the draft, meaning the kind of the set that he and his family set up that for interviews and all the stuff as he got picked in the top 5 as he thought. Rough day. It's the draft is an interesting thing because wherever he goes, obviously his pay is going to be affected by getting drafted lower, but he still has a long career ahead of him. If things go well for him, it's just maybe this is the best thing for him. Some guys, man, they feast on this type of fuel, right? And maybe he'll be one of them. But he's lived in a weird, different world than any of us ever grew up, being the son of Deion Sanders. And we'll see what happens with Shedeur. He does have eligibility remaining. So Karen Grulock says, no black, gold better, referencing the lids, football lids. Kevin Albuquerque says, Shedeur Freud. Steve Lozano says, finally getting to catch another one of these live. Hasn't worked out recently. Hope you've been well. I've been well. Thank you. Recent UGA transfers are interesting, but Odum will be the biggest factor with this team. Yeah, so it's a very weird thing, the fact that you've had both Auburn and Georgia transfers coming to Purdue, right? I think now we've seen quite a few. I mean, what are there? 2 or 3 again this year from Georgia, and there's 2 from Auburn. But it's interesting. I don't think it means much. I don't know why, other than maybe the couple guys that have stuck at Purdue. You still have 2 Georgia guys that stuck from the last round of Georgia transfers. Madden and Morissette are still at Purdue, as far as I know. I that's the thing. I try to be as on top of this stuff as I can, but on the other hand, I'm not chasing after this news. And some of you, Grant, I don't think he's here today, but he is on top of this stuff, and I don't know how you do it. Number one, I don't know how you do it. Number 2, I don't know how you care that much about something that we really don't know a lot about. And so our hats off to everybody who's able to, number one, remember the names, understand the moving parts, and care enough to keep going back. That's great. You're better than me. So once they start practicing again, I think I'll get even more interested. And when this roster is set, which whenever that is, I don't know. So and in Colorado says, good evening. Ted Berkey says, looking to get over 50 portal players. It's insane. It's absolutely insane, but it's really not incongruent with what's happening in college football. I think, what was it? There's been some crazy portal talk, both in basketball and football, but I believe, is this true in basketball? You guys tell me I'm wrong. I believe I heard it's 60% of all college basketball players entered the portal this year. Yeah, not good. It's not good. Steve Azano says, TBH, seems like Brown avoided competition a bit at UNC by leaving. I've been saying this a lot recently, and I'm going to sound again like a broken record, but the guys that I knew that played sports at Purdue, that I knew well enough that, I hung out with them a little bit, were incredible competitive people. Incredible competitive people. And I know these guys are all Gen Xers. I know we're all old now. They're old, I'm old, but all of us are playing football and basketball at the same level right now. That's not true. I am absolutely worthless. But those guys wanted to compete for starting roles. And it feels to me like now people are like, just generally, if you don't get guarantees, you head out of town. I really don't know. I don't know everything around the Ryan Brown situation. Like I said, I think he is a competitor. I think he's a fighter. I love the way he carried himself on the field when he played for Purdue. But I also know that he's had some tumult, whether Purdue, North Carolina, now back at Purdue. So I'm glad he's back. But I still, at the same time, me and my buddies, we started joking about it right when he entered the portal from UNC. My friends and I are like, oh, I bet he's going to come back to Purdue. And then the next day he's on campus. Oh, yeah. And I saw those guys Friday. He hadn't formally announced, I think, that he was coming back to Purdue. And I said something about, I was talking to them about the flux of what's happening and how fans really want to relate and understand these guys as well as they can so they can root for them more. And I said I appreciated that they were at Purdue. And I said, well, look what's happened with Ryan Brown. You know, he was here. And they said, oh, he's still here. That's what they said. Oh, he's still here. And I hadn't read the news yet that he was coming, that he was staying or coming back to Purdue, pardon me. And then I get on my phone when I get in the car, and the news was that he came back to Purdue. And the funny thing is, if you read some of the prognosticators, and they were like, oh man, Purdue leads for portal quarterback, these, you know, clickbait type headlines. And then you see it's Ryan Brown. I was like, man, this is like, we're in bizarro world. Anyway, I'm going to move on. Andy in Colorado says, I spent a couple weeks in Chapel Hill a month ago, and it was very nice. It's a great town. It's a great town. Lots of stuff to do right around campus. It's nicely designed, easy. It's a big campus, and it's interesting. They have an old part and a new part. LBD and I got to shoot hoops in the Dean Dome, which is really, really cool. And that was just luck of the draw. We kind of broke into the arena when we went. It was like 2 days after the national championship that they lost, I believe. So I think that's true. So one of the guys who ended up at Texas Tech came in to work with a coach when we were in there at night, which is really funny. The guy with the blowout. So nice kid, really nice kid. But he played a big role at Texas Tech last year. Small world. Let's see. Jim Garfinkel says, I know we all believe in the second chances, but I'm curious doubt. What do you think? I think that's maybe supposed to be Dowd. What do you think about the two kids from Georgia that both got suspended for problems with some sort of vehicular issue? I don't even know what's going on. So where they were suspended at Georgia and they're at Purdue now, I guess. I don't even know these situations. I can tell you that I have no time for people that get behind the wheel drinking or doing drugs. I have no time for it. That said, people do make mistakes. I hate to see that stuff. I hate it. And especially people that have literally every resource they could ever want. I mean, these guys, man, they can pick up a phone. Anybody can come pick them up and move them around. And if they're on campus, they don't have to do any of it. But I don't know. I don't know the story. So I can't sound off too much about it. So I apologize. Big Red Boiler says a guy named Nitro Tuggle got a speeding ticket and everyone is surprised. Is this what he's talking about? Welcome back to Boiler and Nitro. It's not. So Nitro Tuggle is the best name that came from the portal for Purdue. If that's what we're talking about, if it's a speeding ticket, I don't know how severe a speeding ticket would have to be for me to be upset with a guy. Or reckless driving or whatever it is. I don't know. I don't know if those are the same things. Maybe that's the same thing. But I've sped before, and I drive quickly at times. So but I don't know. I don't have any issue with that unless he was, again, they're drinking other things. So Steve Azano says, I'll join in. Good evening from Arvado, Colorado. That's awesome. That's great. So we've got Colorado and Texas and Albuquerque sounding off. That's awesome. Great to see. Great to hear. Afmos ND says, good evening from Los Angeles, California. See, this stuff is heartening as hell to me. There are some things that really are motivating for me to do this. And if you guys don't understand this, I don't get any money from this. I don't take home any money from this. There's a misconception that because we have sponsorships, because we're part of a network, I don't take any money home. I do not make any money from this. What we do have a little bit of money and we put it right back into the site and to other things. But one thing I love doing is I love the connection with people. And I know it's weird to say I feel connection with you guys, especially when we're just writing this way. But a lot of times these relationships have become in-person relationships where I've met you guys at a game or someplace like that. But being a connection point when someone is way out, meaning away from Purdue, and you feel like it's not just me, but you've got people you can meet with, and maybe you get to know other Boilermakers here. I think it is incredibly heartening and fun to be a part of. We had recently got a piece of email. I was gonna say mail, but from a Navy vet who said when she would come to port, she would listen to the Handsome Hour and to the Quick Cast last year, specifically when Purdue was making their run. And I was like, this is incredible to me that they worked that into their schedule. And I owe her an email. And she's a helicopter boss, I believe. I think she's retired now. But anyway, incredible stuff to hear. Any of that is awesome. And I love that we're all gathering here together. So, let's see. Brian Riggs says, Boiler up from Des Moines, Iowa. There you go. That's great. That's very, very cool. Motor City Boiler says, news reports said 2 student drivers were treated and released. Thank goodness. That's great to hear. Thank you. Appreciate it. Nate Dolan says, non-sports comment. Speaking of AJs, do you remember AJ Wingers on Northwestern? I do. In the 90s. What was your favorite watering hole while at Purdue? So I was never, this is interesting maybe because you guys associate me with having a glass of bourbon. I was a teetotaler. I did not drink until I was 21. I'm young for my class at Purdue. I didn't turn 21 until right before my senior year. And even then, in my senior year, I didn't drink hardly at all. My first time I ever went to Harry's was in August before my senior years. I've only been to Harry's probably 3 times. So I'm kind of cultural in that way. And so if I had a beer back then, if I had a beer, I was at somebody's apartment or something like that. But I didn't drink hardly at all when I was in college. And so, I come from the Garcia's era before it closed. So there were places I liked to eat. And that's a funny thing. I think back about what I was doing socially. There's a place called Utopia, that was like a one-off type Denny's, that we loved going there because you go there at like 2 a.m. That's the thing. I've always been somebody who stays up really late. When I was in college, my son's kind of like this, where he's up late and he's not even doing anything that's bad. He doesn't get to sleep. So, but we would go to Utopia, me and my buddies and my future wife, and get something to eat there because I didn't have a car either. So if I had to be industrious and find a ride, borrow somebody's car to get places. So I don't know if that's a very good answer, but shows a little bit about how much of a loser I was back in college. But no, I don't. That's not a measure of being a loser or a winner. But I didn't drink much. So Athmos Indy says the football schedule is brutal this year for the Boilers. Let Odum and his system cook and look deeper than win-loss this year. See positive momentum. And I agree with that assessment completely. I think there's so many things that are difficult, if not impossible, this year. And a lot of Purdue fans, even people that come on here, have spoken up about they don't have a ton of faith in college football right now or college basketball. And I'm asking every Purdue fan, especially if you come on here and you enjoy it this much, where you'll invest your time here and listen and read, Golden Black or whatever, just give it a little bit of time before you completely bail. I understand why you're thinking this way, where you're like, man, I don't understand anything that's going on. I don't know the players. And if you're from the 90s or 80s or 70s, this is very, very different stuff. Even from the aughts. I mean, we talked about there were 30 somethings, there were 20 somethings. We're all on the same page. We're like, man, I don't like what's going on. So I get that. But don't give it up if you love it. That's the other thing. I keep saying this, try to find the silver lining, try to find the player to root for, try to find Devin Mockabee. That type of guy on the team who sticks around, you're like, I want to root for that guy because I do know a bit of his story. And I ran into him on campus and he's a real person. That sort of thing. It may be harder and harder to do that, but try to find that. Okay. Pat Pence says, I live in Knoxville, best place outside Indiana to wear Purdue stuff. Absolutely. You own that place. So that's awesome. That's pretty great. Got to piss him off. Love being a contrarian. Motor City Boiler says, watching from the burbs of north of Detroit. Yeah, I think you're I think you've been steady where you are, right? I mean, on Twitter, as long as I've interacted with you, you've been in that area, right? Steve Azano says, having an Angel's Envy finished rye right now. Excellent stuff. Very sweet. Very, very syrupy. You got to be in the right mood. If Boiled Sports rock glasses ever are brought back, I'll be the first to buy. You are one of many people who said they want to do it. And I'll tell you the problem with Boiled Sports rocks glasses. They are so difficult to ship. And Jay did all that. He ordered them. He found a really good place to make the etched. And if you don't know this, listen. It's real etching, right, in the glass. They're really, really nice glasses. Those of you who have them. Like I said, I've got one left. So this one, it just see it over and over. The other one was shattered in a tragic Mrs. Boiler Dowd dishwasher accident. But yeah, they're awesome, and I wish we had more of them. But the reason we switched over to the steel, the insulated thing, was because the ease of shipping, and we knew they were gonna get there. Many of you ordered them and had to get it twice because it got there broken. And Jay did everything he could to try to pack them, and he came up with a system, and he had this pretty cool like a bubble wrap thing to keep them from breaking, and it still would happen. So yeah, they're pretty cool. Kevin Albuquerque says RIP T.A. Toms. That's one of them that before, well, the early Breakfast Club, right? T.A. Toms is one of them. So yeah, it's a good one. A lot of the place, Yacht Club's gone. What's the other one that I thought of the other day? Oh, Jake's. I love Jake's. There's a place that I liked. When I was a senior, I'd go to Jake's because I think they had a beer on tap that I liked. And back then, I would drink like Sam Adams. I love Sam Adams. Cherry Wheat back then was a good one. If you could find that on draft, it was incredible. Blue Moon. So I was more on the lager and wheat side. And then when my first job, I worked for a German company. I got to go to Bavaria a couple times. I went to Munich. And so I became kind of I just loved really good Hefeweizen, authentic Hefeweizen in Bavaria. If you've ever had it, I don't mean to sound like a snob. I'm not a beer snob. That's Anish's job. Jay is absolutely not a beer snob. Either is Michael. Anish can be. But he's actually, he will drink whatever you put in front of him too. But Hefeweizen, though, in Germany, it hits different, man. See, almost every place you'd go in the 90s, you'd have a Pilsner and a Hefeweizen. It was cheaper than a Coke. And so I would always get Hefeweizen with my meals when I was traveling for work. And I loved that stuff. And I'd come back to America and try to drink Hefeweizen, and I couldn't find anything to scratch the itch. So maybe some of you guys have had a similar experience where you've had something abroad and it doesn't come back, and it's not the same. Coffee was better in Germany, I thought, as well, because it was really, really, packed a punch. So Andy Ide says, boil up from St. Louis, another one. That's awesome. Andy Ide also says, pour one out for Garcia's. Yeah, I loved Garcia's. I went, the only date I had with someone other than Mrs. Boiler Dowd during my time at Purdue was at Garcia's too. But she and I went a couple times too. So dumb story. Motor City Boiler says, he's talking to Nate. Kevin Albuquerque says, I'd work on writing my dissertation overnight, then walk to the Triple X for breakfast before calling it a very late night. Yeah, I loved Triple X, still love Triple X. And it was one of those places where, you could go get something to eat, and you could run into people that were in worse shape than you. And that was entertaining too. So my roommate, my first roommate at Purdue, no, my second roommate at Purdue was, he was 3 years older than me. And so that's the funny thing. I could have had, and we did have beer in our room. And I didn't drink it. But he was a bit of a beer snob, and I think he still is. So, let's see. Mr. Matt DSM says Utopia was great. I loved it. Also Nirvana. Yeah, very, very good. In Lafayette was good, but I couldn't get there very easily because I couldn't walk. So I was limited to where my feet or my bike could take me. I had a bike all 4 years, never had a car on campus. And I feel like I'm still to this day. I don't know if any of you guys are this way. If you feel like you're still kind of stunted, if you didn't have a car on campus, and I might be alone here because I was a poor kid, but I'm like, I can't get around campus all that well still. Like I have to lean on a map And if you had a car on campus, you're like a genius. You can go anywhere, and it's all the shortcuts, and I don't know them still to this day. I'm only 49. Maybe I'll pick them up. Let's see. Nate Dolan says, boiler up from Lafayette, Louisiana. We're all going to the Bahamas. Yeah, that's right. So that's a very good reference. Purdue's going to be playing in not the big boy mowers event in the Bahamas, but the other one. And it's a very good field. So Purdue's basketball schedule, pre-con, is just loaded again. Painter adopted this philosophy 4 or 5 years ago, where he's going to load up the schedule with just absolute mothers, right? And Purdue has been really, really good since he did it. They've been good versus that competition, with the exception of this season where they got their clocks cleaned by Marquette and A&M. Well, A&M was closer, but of course Auburn. Yikes. But this next year, November, is going to be another one where Purdue is going to be tested. And so we'll be able to see early how much that team is gelled, which will be a lot of fun. Let's see. Motor Silly said, yeah, I lived in this area for pretty much my whole life, other than 4.5 years in West Lafayette. Yeah. So you and I are kind of similar. I've been in Indiana almost my whole life, but I lived in the Boston area and the Jersey area. And I lived in West Lafayette. But yeah, I've been in Indiana almost my whole life. So Alexander Robertson says, Pennsylvania Boilermaker here. Awesome. What part? Saved me from Penn State fans. So Penn State fans are an interesting bunch. Maybe you've had this. I had some when I worked in the Northeast, when I worked in Boston, I had a couple Penn State grad friends. They were good dudes. And I went to Happy Valley for a game with them, had a great time. I think this is before everything blew up at Penn State, of course. This is back in 98 or 99. Breeze was 98. At Purdue, it was Courtney Brown and Arrington run Penn State, and Purdue got beaten up that day. But Penn State fans were pretty great, honestly. They're in the tailgate lots. It's an incredible setting. It may be the only place I can think of that was a better setting for a football game was the Rose Bowl for me. So, but Penn State fans, I'm sure if you're surrounding them, that's got to suck. So, especially since Indy grabber Tyler Warren. Yeah. Oh, so it grabbed. I'm sure that's what you meant. Yeah. That's a huge get for the Colts. Getting Tyler Warren is absolutely awesome. That's the guy I've wanted the Colts to get. I think almost every Colts fan wanted the Colts to get Warren. So that's great. Now, if only they could have a quarterback who could throw a check down. Steve Azzano says, Waddell to Bellarmine. They were pretty bad last year. Hopefully he'll get some good PT. So, my son went to a Bellarmine game in Freedom Hall, and I didn't know they played in Freedom Hall. But he said it's kind of a dump now. And he said there was a curtain too. So, because they're not filling it. But the interesting thing, Waddell's girlfriend is at Louisville. She transferred to Louisville, playing volleyball, and he wanted to be close. And that's a great fit for him. I believe Waddell left with a diploma too. And he's a guy, man, he's a fan favorite. Purdue fans still love him. So good on him. Congratulations for getting to Bellarmine. I think he'll be good there. He's got great size. He's got a good skill set. I think he'll be very good there. He'll be a tough matchup there. So yeah, that'll be neat to see. This is one of the things I love about these conversations, by the way, is this type of thing where I hit my points and you guys come with stuff that I forget to talk about. And they're great. So appreciate that. Kevin Alvarez says also RIP the pizza shop on the levee that made really good Strombolis, but the owner had issues with the IRS and left for Sicily. Man, I don't know what that is. Anybody else know what that is? Let me know. If you remember Beepers, I love Beepers. I hung out at Beepers all the time. That was very close to Cary Quad. And so if you remember this, I don't know if I've said this to you guys, but there was an ATM behind Beepers, behind that strip mall where Beepers was, where Jimmy John's and all that apartment is now. And I think it was an MBD. And I had my banking was done at MBD at that point. And you could get money out in $5 increments. And if I had over $10 in my account, I would get $5 and I would go over and get a grinder from Beepers. I love Beepers. Love that place. So that was a good place. And my college roommate worked there. So every now and again I get a discount. Alfano's. Yeah, that's good. Alfano's had the big breadstick. What they call it? Yeah. Alfano's. Very good. Steve Azano said, had a buddy from SMU go to SMU PSU playoff game the past year. He was very disappointed in the result, but said it was the best atmosphere he's ever been a part of. And he's from the South. Yeah. Penn State is a great place to watch a game. All things, I think that's one of the worst cultures in college football because of the excuses they made. So I know I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here, saying they were great and they are awful. But the fact they still said that, after everything they knew that happened, the lives that were destroyed in that within the athletic department, within the university, they still didn't want to hold Paterno accountable is incredibly stupid. It's evil, right? That stuff's evil. And Paterno absolutely deserved to be held accountable. That said, they are awesome fans. They're great fans. And they're not nasty. I've been to Ohio State. I've been to Michigan. Been to Michigan State. Been to Notre Dame. I've been to Boston College. Been to a couple places out east, Northwestern. Never been to the schools out haven't been to Nebraska, Iowa, Wisconsin, and then any of the hangers on. I've been to Maryland I've been to Rutgers. But I thought Penn State fans were very, very easy to deal with. So, yeah. Andy I'd say those stuffed pizza. Yeah, stuffed pizza was awesome at Alfano's. That is good. What's the other place the junky pizza that it's gone to? That I can't remember. Darn it, doesn't matter. Okay, been a while. Yeah, Beepers is great, and in Colorado, and I see eye to eye. So that's good. That's a good NightCast right there. Do me a favor, if you think of it, if you're just listening right now, if you're listening on Believe Network, and you want to leave comments, come over to Twitter. Here in this comment section, let me know what you want to hear about or you want to talk about this summer, because I want to try to post once or twice a week, do something where I'm streaming kind of like this, reacting to stuff, but there's not a lot to react to. And I think this off season, especially, there's not going to be a lot to react to. Last year was a bit of a challenge, and I did a bourbon segment, and 5 or 6 of you enjoyed it, where I would talk about bourbons. Tonight I'm drinking something from Bardstown that was a gift, extremely kind gift, but it's a Bardstown rye that is finished in a cherry infrared charred barrel. It's excellent stuff. So, and it was a gift from a BS watcher listener. Really, really appreciate it. Very, very good stuff. So, but I don't know if anybody enjoyed the bourbon bar or not, but maybe I do that. Maybe let's talk about it. Let's see what we're going to do. And I look forward to it. Also, I'm going to try to do smaller segments. I know this is a long show, 47 minutes. I like interacting this way, but I'm told that if I do things a little quicker, some people might like the content a little bit more. And I think a mix up, a change up rather, having something for the people that don't like the long form might be good, especially if you don't want to just hear me talk about restaurants. But I can talk about restaurants. So let's see. Okay, so Steve says bring the bourbon segment back. Okay, then if I get enough of that, please tell me in the comments that you actually enjoy that, and I'll do that. And if you remember back, what I would do is I would talk about the bourbon, what I was drinking, kind of describe what I was having, and then we'd talk about something else too. It'd be bourbon and then be conversation as well. And I tried to, I think if I remember correctly, my format was I'd try it neat, tell you what I was tasting, and then I put over ice, and that's the way I drink. I generally drink bourbon over ice. I like it better over ice. So I just like cold drinks. I'm an American. I can tell you when I travel abroad, I don't care where it is, it's tougher because some places it's harder to find drinks on ice. So Nate Dolan says, let's discuss the Euro Hefeweizen connections. So I don't know what you mean by connections, but yeah, we could discuss Hefeweizen though. I haven't drank a good Hefeweizen though in a decade. I got to a point, I don't know if any of you guys this way, where there's something you drank when you were younger and you just don't do it anymore. And I just I stopped looking for it because I found sorry about hitting the mic. I found something that I enjoyed drinking. I like drinking bourbon and rye. I like rye more than bourbon. So just my thoughts. So great talking to everybody. And if you've got any thoughts, things that I screwed up, let me know in the comments. And we'll talk to you soon. I don't know when that'll be either, but I'm going to try to do it. Like I said, I'm going to try to do it every week. So if I step out of my lane a little bit during the summer, maybe that's something too about this experiment that I'm just trying to post, make sure I'm doing some stuff, because keeping the pulse going of the stream, I think, is important. And sometimes maybe I'll talk about Indianapolis-based sports, Colts, Pacers, stuff like that. Speaking of, I don't know if you saw the podcast of Steven Jackson talking to Reggie Miller about the brawl in Detroit. But that was pretty awesome. Steven Jackson actually taking responsibility for wasting, 2 years, maybe more, of Miller's career by everybody getting suspended and just destroying that team. I mean, I appreciated that apology on one hand, much too late. On the other hand, can't go back. So, talk about IndyCar. Hell yes. I could do that. I could do that weekly, especially with it coming. Not sure if you guys watched the testing at Indy. I did. I thought about going out, but I couldn't legitimize it because work was so busy. But, I thought this year was going to be the new chassis and multiple engine year, and it didn't come to pass. And I'm always bothered by that when I hear there's a plan of something good, some R&D, some development, some turning things forward happening, and then they get stuck and do the same thing. But these chassis have been really good. The thing I'm concerned about is we'll see how these cars do with the hybrid power plant on the 500-mile circuit. There's a lot of question marks there. I think a couple drivers have expressed that they're concerned about how durable it'll be. And we saw a couple mechanical issues happening, but yeah, I can talk about IndyCar. Absolutely. Steve Azano says, if you have things you want to talk about, share them. People can always just click on it. Yeah. It's weird how sensitive people are. We can talk about politics and religion. I'm just kidding. I try to keep that stuff. I don't talk about that in person. I'll talk about it all day long. I've got opinions, even if they're wrong. So, but great talking to you guys, and have a great evening. God bless you. Hammer down. We'll see you soon. And seriously, leave comments, leave questions, leave suggestions. I do appreciate it. We'll see you.